I got to tell you, I like the hairdo. I feel like you've grown your hair out. Huh? You're looking sharp.
Well, you know what? First of all, sir, thank you for noticing. I did grow my hair out. I went to the hairdresser yesterday, barber, and I said, you know what? Leave it a little longer on top. I'm feeling sexy. Just got back from the Bahamas, got a little color. Yeah.
How was the trip?
Fantastic. It's my third time. Will owns a place there. It's called the Albany. And he started it. It's an investment thing he did with Tiger Woods and Justin Timberlake. And we go there a lot. I've been there 3 or 4 times in the last couple of months, 3 or 4 months. And it's there's nothing like it in the world, Chael. It's one of one. It's in the Bahamas on the main island there, or Nassau, near the other stuff, but it's exclusive for the super rich. There's homes and condos, and there's a private beach, 2 big pools, restaurants, and it's all gated, and it is awesome. Like stupid good.
It sounds incredible. I'm enjoying the story. I wish I was there myself, but I must tell you, I'm enjoying it just hearing it from you.
Yeah, it's that cool. Like, I didn't know what to expect, and it's like, bro, here's the problem. You get so spoiled because that's not my lifestyle. That's his lifestyle. So when we get there, I'm like, oh, I need to get a couple of things. Who do I see about this? They go, your butler. And I said, I'm sorry, come again? And they said, your butler. Will has his butler. You have your condo. And Chael, I felt almost dirty. I'm like, a butler. I'm a guy from Rhode Island. I don't do butlers, right? But when you see the text, I'm going to send you some screenshots. Bro, it is literally like, hello, Peter, can I get, peanut butter, some flowers? And I'll be like, I'm asking for them. When I tell you the requests in text, Chael, I abuse the shit after a while. And I caught myself. I'm like, who am I? What do I need this for? Just to like.
Did you get peanut butter and flour?
Literally, bro, the stupidest requests, like odd shit. Like, I need paper clips and ice cream. You know what I mean? And this guy gets it. And you find yourself sort of like when in Rome. And I was there at this fancy place, and it's ridiculous. You're so spoiled that when I come home, I'm like, where's my butler? Where's my shit?
Sure.
My wife is like,
my
your butler's not here.
Oh, too funny. All right, hey, so I got to tell you,
yeah,
I talk MMA all the time, and I do miss a little bit. My thumb isn't on the pulse as I think it is because I live so close to the tree. Sometimes I can't stand back and see the whole forest. That's just a reality, right? When you're covering something, you end up stuck in this bubble. You are a super fan. I mean, I must say, you are educated to the highest of levels. You've been following the sport forever. But just tell our viewers, how did you get involved in being a fan of UFC?
Yeah. Okay. So I was originally a fan of when UFC first started. I was on the Fresh Prince. It was my first show. I was a writer, and Will Smith and I were huge fans of UFC. Literally UFC 1, the early days. So much so that Jay Leno gave Will these Rottweiler puppies, right, as a gift, and he named them Gracie and Shamrock and Tyson, all UFC fighters and fighters in general. And we were just way into it. And then we sort of fell out of it for a while. And what brought me back was the Ultimate Fighter reality show, which to this day, I still watch. I crave it. They can't do enough episodes. I think it's the best thing that ever happened to MMA. In fact, I'm willing to say that is what made the UFC the UFC, because it brought a level of, it humanized this sport that everybody thought was just a blood sport. And all of a sudden you're watching it and you're like, oh my God, these are just regular kids. And this guy's a single dad, and that one's mom is battling cancer. And, and you got to know them on a human level. And it brought me back into this sport that I was away from for a while and made me fall in love with all over again. So I've been a fan ever since.
All right, tell me this. A couple of things that are narratives within the fight game. I always hear the term finish fights just by example. Yeah. But I always wonder, how important is that? Like, I'll be at audiences and I'll be in crowds and there'll be a finish and the crowd doesn't necessarily go crazy. So I've always wondered, is it the finish of the fight, or the fight's just too damn long? Is it that you have a conflict and you have a conflict resolution, and us, the viewer, is ready to move on to the next conflict so we can get the next resolution? Tell me, is it important that a fight gets finished, or do you just want to see a really good fight?
I want to see a really good fight. It is not that important that a fight gets finished. I think it's about levels. So when you know what you're watching as a fan, when you understand the intricacies of jiu-jitsu, right, you enjoy the long haul more. But for your average fan, speaking just from a place of how to increase the fan, base, yeah, I do think it could be considered a little long, and I'll tell you why. Every time I watch fights with people who are not sort of educated with MMA, it's like, why are they laying on each other? These are the things you get. Why doesn't he just move his arm out? Why doesn't he just do this? They don't see sort of the beauty of that, and except when there's 3 rounds or 5 rounds of 2 guys going toe-to-toe, which is rare. I mean, it's not that often that you have a fantastic back-and-forth fight. So in that regard, yeah, I think fights can be a little long, especially the championship fights. So they can go a little long for the regular fan, but for a guy like me who really enjoys it, I have nowhere to go. I'm home on a Saturday night. My wife makes wings, and I'm there. I'm in.
I must tell you, I asked you that for 2 reasons. One, because when I hear the talk a lot, you got to finish fights, But when I look at fight of the nights, and I look at these guys that are getting bonus and recognized for their performance, it is very seldomly a fight that ends in a finish. It is usually a long, drawn-out war, but where both guys are trying to finish. Neither guy gives up on the concept of winning the fight, and they go at it nonstop. But so many times I do wonder, okay, where is this coming from? Is it because this is just too long of a fight? Is it because you're losing the audience's attention? And if that is what it is, much like boxing does, which is just simply too long, if that is what it is, Mike, it seems like a real easy fix. Let's just shorten the contest. Instead of doing 3 5s, let's do 3 4s or 3 3s. If we're saying that the product needs to be cut short because the time limit's too long, it seems like we should just shorten the time limit.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good idea, especially for the championship bouts. But even for the regular bouts, I couldn't agree more. When you're watching the prelims, for instance, right, there is almost no prelim really that you want to watch 3, 5-minute rounds. It's very, very, very unlikely. So even the great Joe Rogan, who's entertaining you by telling you what's going on, it's still really difficult to stay engaged in those fights. And you made a really good point about Dana. See, Dana is a high-level thinker. Clearly, he's the guy at the UFC, so he understands the intricacies, so he likes those longer fights that go back and forth. And you're right, the fight of the night bonus is usually awarded to, the ones that go on, the war of attrition and so on and so forth. But yeah, from a fan's perspective, if the UFC said tomorrow we're going to make it 3 4-minute rounds or even 3 3-minute rounds, I would not be opposed. Probably 4 because you need a little more time. Different from boxing. There's so many more elements and ways to fight and finish a fight. So 4 would be a great thing. It would not bother me at all to have a shorter round.
I agree with that. Now, you brought up the early days of MMA. You were the Gracies and the Shamrocks, right? The real prime time, which got us both involved as fans. Yeah. But one thing they did back then, Mike, they used to have something called a super fight. What I loved about the super fight, there was no fake belt. There was no intern belt. It came with a belt. It was a respected position, but it was between 2 guys that you wanted to see fight. Maybe it wasn't for a title, and maybe it wasn't even for a contendership that would involve the rankings, but it was still 2 guys that had done something in the sport that were known and memorable and had a storyline, and now we're going to see them compete, even if it is for nothing other than the competition itself.
Yeah,
I would love as a fan, and I'm never going to get my way. I'm not even an advocate. I just want to talk to you about, I would love if they brought back the super fight. There's some fights that I want to see, but they don't involve rankings, so I'm not likely to get them. Let me just offer you an example.
Yeah.
Uriah Faber versus Jose Aldo, part 2. Right now, these guys aren't even in the same weight class. Right now, these guys are in a different part of their career where possibly they're not chasing championships. But that fight would be a lot of fun between 2 skilled studs that do have a backstory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree with me on that? Okay. Well, 100%. if you were to play along, if you could make a match, any match you wanted, who do you want to see fight?
Okay. 2 guys, again, that are not in the same weight class, and they had flirted with the idea of fighting, for me, would be John Jones and Brock Lesnar.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Well, see, now you took it to a whole new level. Yeah, okay. I like that.
Yeah. Because John Jones, I mean, look, they're different sizes and they have different skill sets, and it would truly be, I think the average fight fan would see what on paper that fight is so awesome because you have this big, it's literally, my mom could watch that fight and go, well, the big guy with the sword on his chest, if he gets a hold of the other guy, he's in big trouble. You know what I mean? Sure. It's like they have such different skill sets. And I would, as a super fan of the sport, John Jones and Brock Lesnar, I want to see those 2 guys go at it 100%.
Yeah, that would be fun. I will tell you, over time, I love where the sport's at right now. And Scott Coker gets a lot of credit for this because Scott Coker always wanted to go, okay, who do I have under contract and what is the funnest matchup?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. I was at the UFC. I went over to Bellator. And a question I would always get asked is, what's the difference between the two? And Mike, I had so hard of a time answering that because there were so much similarities.
Yeah.
But I've thought about it. And I actually have my answer. Here's what my answer is. I don't know if you'll find. If Dana White is making a fight, the number one word that Dana is looking for when he puts a fight together is interesting. The number one word that Scott Coker is looking for when he puts a fight together is fun.
Mm-hmm.
So Coker had a smaller roster, but he wanted to have some fun. When you hear fights announced, what's going to be a good... And Dana wanted it to be interesting. He had a bigger roster, so Dana was very disciplined to keep his divisions within that division. Now, he's changed over time. We're starting to see this champ thing. Where somebody's eventually going to be a champ, which is just going to be a phenomenal accomplishment.
Yes.
But in that vein, Mike, now, if we look back, we missed some fights that if under today's standards we would have got. By example, Matt Hughes versus Anderson Silva. They wanted to fight each other.
Right.
But Dana said, no, you're over here and you're over here.
Yes.
John Jones and Anderson Silva were willing to go fight each other. They even went downstairs at UFC headquarters in front of Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White and put on a private sparring session. This is how much these guys wanted to find out who's better. But we miss those, and we can't get those back.
Right. Now, why is that?
Well, we can't get them back. Look, Matt Hughes is no longer competing.
I mean, those guys, those particular guys, yes, but we have new guys. We have new situations. Yeah. And I think, it's so funny that you mentioned the UFC, versus Bellator and their approach, because I think, just getting off track for a second, but I think that what makes great fights interesting, and you said all these things, is you're invested. You know what I mean? If you're invested in the fight, you had a great way of making a fight exciting, right? Connor, clearly. And you were great. And it's not just the idea of talking. It's the idea of something in that fight goes far beyond that cage. There's something personal there, right? And I think that is the ingredient that we need for any super fight. It's just interesting. And you said a perfect one, which is John Jones and Anderson Silva, because so many people were like, he's the best pound for pound. He's the greatest MMA. He's the greatest. They're similar in size and stature, and their styles are somewhat similar. Ultimately, every fan would want to see that. So I wish I had another one to think of, but there are a lot out there that I think we still have I think now more than ever, we have the fighters to make something like that happen. I think there are so many interesting fighters in the world. The Jorge Masvidals, the guys that are getting into brawls backstage and making it interesting. Ben Askren, all these situations that happen, a 4-second knockout and revenge and super fights, and Daniel Cormier and John Jones going at it. So I think we're in a really good place for that sort of thing. And I think they need to classify the UFC. I was speaking to somebody about this recently. The UFC should have one fight per card that is like the quote-unquote oddball fight or the super fight. We're bringing Uriah Faber, we're putting them, no weight classes, just put them against each other. There's not a belt, there's no rankings involved, just a great fight, like a fan favorite. That would be awesome.
Okay, let me switch gears here. About 2 months ago, there was a dialogue, but I started to believe it because Ari Emanuel himself started to believe it.
Yep.
Tom Cruise versus Justin Bieber. Now, I get the whole thing.
Remember that.
I will still tell you with a very straight face, I want to see that. If those guys want to fight and I have an ability to witness it, I'm going to witness it.
With you.
Okay, you're out there in Hollywood, man. Was there ever and is there still any truth to this match? What do you know?
Oh, I think it was a Twitter war situation. I think it was Justin Bieber sort of kind of mouthing off and getting a little bit, full of himself. I don't think Tom Cruise probably ever took it seriously. I don't think that's his situation. I think I don't want to say above it, but I just don't see himself, at his age and all that stuff, getting into the mud with that situation. So I don't see that really happening. It was a fun idea, but I don't know how serious that was. But there are fights I would like to see happen.
By example?
Okay. Will Smith, right?
Okay.
Will Smith is 50 years old. He's a superhero. I mean, the guy is just in unbelievable shape. He trained for Ali. He knows what he's doing. He's ready to fight. I would like to see Will Smith whoop some ass in Hollywood.
Wait a minute. No, you got to give me an opponent. Who's the opponent? Come on.
I don't have the opponent. But if this was 12 years ago, it was Eminem, because Eminem said a couple of things about Will in a rap. And I was
Okay.
personally trying to get the fight going. I was playing matchmaker. I was playing Dana White. I was out there going, let's do this. Just box him. Put him in a ring and box him. It didn't happen, obviously, but I would have liked to have seen him whoop Eminem's ass.
I believe the line was, Will Smith doesn't have to curse to sell albums, but I do, so F him and F you too.
That's exactly it. That
Okay.
fucked everything.
By the way, I must tell you, some people don't get starstruck, but for me, for a small town guy, when I go meet somebody that I got to see in a movie or something, I get starstruck.
Are you starstruck right now? Is that what you're trying to get to?
I absolutely am. I absolutely,
Jail.
but I must tell you, it's a real thrill for me.
Yeah.
And I got seated next to Will at a UFC, sat side by side with him, 2 hours, watched the show, got a visit. He is one, and I can say this about a few guys, but he is one of the guys who did not let me down. He was as cool in person as he comes off on TV. He acted like we knew each other. I walked up, I was going to introduce myself. He said hello and called me by my name. He was great for 2 hours. I just must tell you that because you probably meet a bunch of pricks in your business. Yeah. He's not one of them. He's a good dude.
He's 100% a good dude. I say this to people all the time. I just got back from Rhode Island, and all my family, they ask, how's Will? Is he really as nice? Or people ask me, is he really as nice? And I say, no, he's actually nicer. And Chael, if this guy is fooling me, it's been nearly 30 years. I met him at the pilot taping of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay. Wow. So we've known each other forever. The guy is as kind, as giving, as caring as an individual you will ever meet in your life. He's just that guy. He cares about everybody. His fans are number one to him. People in general, he makes you feel like you're the funniest guy in the world. You're the only person in the room, and he's just a fantastic guy. I'm sure you met him at the Ronda Rousey fight.
Yep.
That must have been it, right? And yeah, he's a fan of MMA, so he definitely knows who you are, and I'll tell him you said hello. And he's a guy that delivers. When people meet him, he's always what they expect and more. So yeah, he's the best.
All right, we're talking about Hollywood guys fighting. I got to tell you, I have fallen for the gimmick that Mark Wahlberg is a legit badass. I believe it, right? And I realize, I don't mean he's a skilled fighter, all of these things, but he did spend some time in a boxing gym. He's got documented altercations in the street. He's in fantastic shape. I would just think if we were to hand pluck a few guys from Hollywood that got to go fight in a cage and are probably going to do better than expected, I would have to think Wahlberg would be up there. Am I a fool?
No. Wahlberg would definitely be up there. He's compact. He's got a good stance. I've watched him. He has a boxing gym at his home. He has a boxing ring at his home, and I've seen him spar. He trained for the movie The Fighter. He's in fantastic shape. I mean, he's getting up there in age. He's about my age. He's 50, but I think he would be great. In fact, now that you say it, I think I smell a Mark Wahlberg, Will Smith bout.
Really? Do those guys got heat?
No, they like each other, but so I know we need the heat. I'll work on it. Listen, how about this? I'm going to work on this, and I'll get some names lined up. We're going to get a fight, me and you. We're going to get something going.
It doesn't even have to be true. Go grab Will's phone sometime when he's out of the room. Yeah. Start texting Wahlberg some. Go get on his Twitter. I mean, let's get it going. Come on, take a joke, fellas.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say? This is all you have to do, Chael. It's so easy. All you have to do is go like this. Ready? By the way, I ran into Mark Wahlberg. Oh, really? What do you have to say? It was interesting. Well, what did he say? I think he likes you. Look, I wouldn't worry about it. You know what I mean? That's all you got to say. And we're done. The fight is done. It's done.
We're done.
We're
done.
I love it.
It would be enough.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Hey, this is awesome catching up. You got anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, absolutely not. I'm just a fan. I'm so glad that you had me on. I'm excited as hell, and I can't wait to watch it. It's great.
No, we got to make this a thing. I would love to have you on more often. I was like, man, he's super busy and his wife's. I don't want to, between your vacation, I'm booking you. You're at the Bahamas waiting on a club sandwich at 2 a.m. I don't want to bother you, but if you're open to it, let's make this a thing.
100%, bro. I'm in. I love it.
Soccio, you're awesome. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, pal.
All right, guys, Mike Soccio, I must tell you, Will Smith talks about, and you guys have probably just seen it by what a great speaker he is. Will Smith refers to Mike Soccio as the greatest pitchman in all of Hollywood. That is a very well-known thing. In fact, the time that I was name-dropping to him that I sat next to Will Smith, I brought that up. That was my first conversation point. I go, hey, by the way, I'm cronies with Soccio. And he jumps in and goes, best pitchman in all of Hollywood. That's why he's famous. Yes, he's famous because Will Smith calls him the best pitchman in Hollywood. But as you can see, this guy can talk. This guy's got an opinion. This guy goes back. We need to make this a thing. I'd like to get more updates from Mike Soccio.